All right, I want to start out with the scripture in the Aquarian. It may be familiar, it may not. This is 1:30, and Jesus and Peter, James, and John have just been up to the Mount of Transfiguration, and the 9 other disciples have been healing. And a man brought his son who was epileptic from birth. And the man was concerned because his son, when you have an attack, it could throw you into the fire, and he could drown, and he'd just been dealing with it since birth and taking his son everywhere he could possibly to have him healed. So he brought his son to the 9 disciples because Jesus and the 3 were busy. And the 9 disciples were not able to heal this young man. Do y'all remember the story? Mm-hmm. Okay. So they weren't able to heal him. So Jesus comes, and then the Father goes to Jesus, and the Father says, "Please, Master, I know you can do it." And this is what I normally teach. We're going to do a different aspect this morning, but normally I teach about the Father. And Jesus says to the Father, he says, "Do you have faith?" And the Father cries, and he says, "Do you believe?" And the Father cries, and he said, "Lord, I believe. Help thou my unbelief. Help that part of me that cannot believe." And Jesus says to the dad, "By your faith it shall be done," and then the boy is healed. So it was a beautiful story of our human nature and how our love for one another can lift us into a higher space. But what I want to talk about today are the 9 disciples. So they all go back to dinner, and they're talking to Jesus, and this is what they say. "Lord, why could we not heal? We spoke the word, and even that was powerless." So they did what they normally do. And Jesus said, "Your great success in all your former work, your great success in all your former work has made you careless. You forgot to recognize the power of God. Without the spirit of the word is idle. You forgot to pray. There is no faith without prayer. Faith is the wings of prayer, but wings fly not alone." Do you understand what he's telling to them? They tried to do it of their own energy and their own accord. They did not connect with the Creator, with Father, Mother, God, with God, who is the one who would do the healing, correct? Mm-hmm. Would these people do the healing? No. God would do the healing. Then Jesus says, and he's not yelling at them. Do you notice the tone of his words? He's not yelling. He says, "By prayer and faith, you can bring down the mountain peaks, cast them into the sea, and the little hills will skip like lambs at your command." That's what prayer and faith can do for you. But he said, "This failure may be well for you. The greatest lessons that are learned in life come through failures that are made." And the disciples sat in thought. So we have a beautiful teaching experience that came about when the human gentleman who had studied with him for 3 years already, he was getting near to the point of the crucifixion and the end of his services, went into a healing opportunity, all 9 of them, and they went from their heart to their ego, personality, self, which we love, don't we? I mean, we do love our ego, personality, self, don't we? Okay, so how often have any of us become overconfident with our jobs? And you no longer pray or include God in your daily activity. You go, "I got this, God. I got it. I don't need to include you." Do you do that at your work? Yeah. I'm very blessed that I can't do that at my work. But if it's something you know how to do, you just approach it, don't you? Or you go, quick, obligatory morning connection, and then you do what you know to do. Do you know when you do that where you are staying? At your own level of consciousness. And how much room have you asked for God to come in? "I got it, God." As a matter of fact, you say, "I got this." Yeah. Go stay over there. And I want you to think how often you do that. Okay. Could you include God? If you could include God, you could lift into a higher level of consciousness, because everything in the world could be a learning experience for you. everything in the world could be a learning experience. Sitting down doing the same thing, looking at your emails, checking out this, everything could be something spiritual, because you are spiritual. And it doesn't mean you have your Bible by your side. I'm not talking doctrine and theology, I'm talking spirit. Everything could have that connotation for you. How do you think your worldly work would change if you did that? Most of us ask for God when we need superhuman strength. Most of us go into the kitchen, we're going to do our little recipe. You don't pray before you do your recipe, do you? You pray when you can't open the jar. And you do. God, help me now. Nobody else is here. So you need that superhuman strength. But what if we prayed as we walked into the kitchen? What if we prayed as we're going through and asked for the beautiful angels to move through? Again, something I am blessed to have to do if I walk in the kitchen. Because I never got this. All right, this is what they said. Using God for superhuman strength is the parable of our lives. It's what we do. We don't really open, and we could, but we don't really open to that daily, constant contact. We know how fabulous, strong, and amazing God is, but we typically call on Him only when our human self is in trouble. How many of you meditate every day? Let's see really hands. How many of you meditate every day? Still, it's only this one side. Over here, I don't know, you guys. Almost isn't every day. How many of you eat every day? Hands. How many of you breathe every day? How many of you take care of your human body every day? Okay. God, creator of all things, provider of all that you need? Not so much. So can you see that there might be room for expanding how we include God? All right. Now, how many pray every day? Hands, please. Okay, we've got this side. This side has come on board. And again, what are you praying for? Superhuman strength? Divine intervention? Help for something? Yeah. Meditation is when you open your consciousness to say, talk to me, I am surrendering to your will, I am open to feel you, to know you, let me become one with you, and you let the experience be whatever it is. Sometimes you're taught, sometimes you just have a body experience, sometimes you're lifted up, but it's communing with something bigger than you, your creator. And how beautiful is it when you meditate? Okay. All right. Moving into God's will lifts you from the human to the divine. And then in the rest of the day, guess what's a part of you? The divine. And if you stay aware of that as you go through your day, what is acting through you now? More than your human mind can know. So in order to really connect and hear and speak and have a dialogue with God, we have to learn to maintain the connection with God. So reconnecting with God at intervals during the day is extremely powerful. Are you aware of that? We have the quiet mind that we do a divine dip in, and then we've got the little quiet mind books that we give people all the time. Do you ever take your quiet mind at lunch and do a divine dip yourself? How many do that? Oh, good. About even. Good. Does it uplift you to hear words that are of God, just to lift you up for a minute? And they're never condemning, are they? They're all always beautiful and uplifting, encouraging words. You could do that. You could look at all the affirmations that you placed around your desk. I know you have. Mm-hmm. Do you know affirmations can become invisible? Mm-hmm. And you're praying, your subconscious is taking over. Subconscious take over, you know. But if we actually looked at the affirmations, and I would invite you to maybe put the children have little stickers. You can stick a star on it once a week or draw something on it once a week and embellish it so you are consciously interacting with it. So it's not one and done. So your eye goes to it. Oh yeah, I am a part of God's divine perfection. Oh yes, anything I can do. I'm empowered to do anything I choose. Oh yeah, and it hits your brain. Maybe every Monday you do an affirmation refresh. You don't have to change it, you just have to look at it. You have to embellish it a bit. Would that help you stay in conscious contact? Yes. All right. If we're going to live at a higher level of vibration, we need to stay connected to the higher level. Could you do it better? Could you do it better? Do you want to do it better?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to share a little bit about something I went through this week. It's very small. This week I was aggravated. I don't know why. You know, when you just don't. I do know why.
Yeah.
Somehow my will was being not happening. Something was standing in front of my will. And I don't even know what I was willing about, but I was aggravated. So I was driving down 92, and a car whizzed in front of me, and they just almost hit me. Oh my God, and I went, gotta get it right. What is wrong with you? And I couldn't believe it. What is wrong with you? Why would you do this? And so I'm going, oh my goodness. And I get in the other lane because I don't want to be near this car anymore. And I'm driving, and guess what? The next 3 or 4 miles, I am a magnet for everybody that has something wrong with them. And they're coming at me, and they're coming at me. And I'm going, ugh. And then I say to myself, what is wrong with you? And I started to pray. I said, God, please help me. I don't want to live in this way. So I put my angels in my car. I put one on the back, on the front, on the left, on the right, in the center. I asked the white light to protect my car. And now I'm in my space again. I'm cruising. Everybody that has something wrong is not gone. They're not even near me. They're flowing their own way. I'd forgotten to include God in that simple little moment. When you don't include God, you vibrate into the frequency that you choose. And when I said, what is wrong with you, where did I go? To them. And everybody else had something wrong with it. Everybody else was aggravated. And I drew it to me in the first place because I was agitated. Because my will was being provoked at some level. In God's love, when I surrounded myself with light, do you think I was at peace when I arrived at my destination? Yeah. I was okay. I wasn't ready to tussle with anybody. I was at peace. Including God in every moment, consciously, becomes the challenge. All right. You can turn a fight in a heartbeat by including God. You can turn it. You may not come to resolution, but you can turn it by including God. Just stop and include God. And if you're in an argument with someone that you love, you can say, okay, wait, I'm just going to bring God in for a minute. You can say it out loud. If you don't love them and they don't know, you just do it quietly. Because they'll think that you're powering up on them. So, okay. In the first Sunday of this series, I taught you how to connect with God and how to begin to understand the language of the universe. That's our October 1 service on YouTube. So to know more specifically about that, I would advise you to rehash that one. But I want to take us a slightly different direction. Did you notice in the scripture that it said, by prayer and faith you can bring down the mountain, cast the peaks into the sea, the little hills will skip around like lambs at your command. So I wanted to ask us today, as we're learning to talk to God and learning to walk in that energy, is it possible that we are afraid of calling the mountains down? Is it possible that we are afraid of taking that beautiful power of God into our beingness? I mean, are we content in this muddled space? Something to think about, eh? All right. I'm always reminded about how we are like little children creating. You know, I always reference us being in the backyard and God calls us back into the house. And you know, when you're a little child, sometimes you don't want your parents to see what you're creating, do you? Hey, what's going on in there? Nothing. I don't want you in my stuff right now. So you all know that and you can own that. And you know as adults when you're in that space, when you don't want God in your stuff. Well, I had a very profound understanding I wanted to share with you that is another take on that childhood energy. When I was little, we were all little, we were moving to Washington State. And my dad went on to Washington to set up the job, and we got the real good opportunity to stay in Oklahoma with my mom and my grandparents and cousins and aunts and uncles who loved us. and for almost 2 months for a summer. It was amazing. My grandparents lived in a space that looked like it might have near a farm, but it really wasn't. It was near an oil field. And my grandfather worked on the derrick, so he'd cross the field and go work on a derrick. And there was space. There was fields and stuff we could play in, and we were just having the best time, and I got to play with my cousins, and it was fabulous. Still one of the highlights of my summerhood. And during that summer, my little cousins decided they were going to build a plane. So it was so fun. So they had this wooden box, and they were building this plane and hammer and nails and trying to get some wings on it. And it was a project. So it was maybe day 2 or 3, I don't know. We're all working on the plane, having a ball. And they said, yeah, we're going to fly this plane to go see Uncle Bob, my dad. I went, oh my God, the strictest man in the world? You want to go see him? He would have us sweep the dirt. We'd be pulling weeds. We'd be cleaning lawn chairs. Are you kidding me? And I went into complete shock because their fantasy just slammed into my reality. And I remember thinking, should I tell him who Uncle Bob is? And I was stumped. And I can see it very clearly in my mind. Now, I was what you would call a rising first grader. I had been through kindergarten. I knew what the world was like. I didn't quite know what to do. So I looked at them, and they were laughing. Can I go see Uncle Bob? Okay. And I'm going, oh, God. I looked at them, I looked at the plane, and I went, that sucker's never going to fly. Thank God. And I chose to say nothing. I chose to say nothing. But this is what happened. My reality became so crystal clear in that moment against their dream. So crystal clear. These kids have no idea. That I began to use that as a pattern. And from that until I got into metaphysics, everyone's dream slapped up against my reality. Just slapped up against it. Well, let's just look at it from my vantage point, which is extremely real. Do you understand? From kindergarten, I developed a pattern that your dreams, if they don't make sense to my reality, cannot be. Do you hear that? And when I was in metaphysics and started metaphysics a long time ago, 30 years at this point, that's the first thing I worked on. Say, what? You mean God can come in and make something different happen? What? And I started proving it and proving it and proving it and proving it. And it was my mission the first year or two. It was my mission to see if God could really take this unhappy marriage and do something with it. And it did. Take my unhappy job and do something with it. And it happened. Take all of this energy and do something with it. And it happened. It was my mission to take that limited perspective of my reality off of the dream of myself and then others. Do you see? As a little girl, that saved my life. Doing that. That kept me safe because I was in a world with a man who was extremely disciplinarian. So everything had to be real. It had to be real because you're going to get popped if it's not. You see? But as an adult, growing in the world of knowing God and beginning to let God in, it was quite an interesting practical approach that I had to apply to let God into my reality, into my dreams. Are you guys with me? Yes. Has anybody done that?
Always.
Yeah. Oh, we've got one. So it was me and Juanita. You guys are listening to our story. So, until I learned to include God, I could not grow anything that was outrageous. Do you guys understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Outrageous. And if you are, and I know many of you have been in an unhappy marriage or relationship, isn't it an outrageous thought that you could ever be free?
Yeah.
It's outrageous. It's out of your reach. Outreach us. It's outrageous. It's out of your reach. Have a great job. Have what you want. That's outrageous. But when we start including God in those dreams, then the outrageousness of it can become a reality. That can become the new reality, the new level. Now, I've told you all, and we've been working on this quite interestingly, you haven't been aware, but this is the year of planting seeds. 2017 is a 1 year we've been planting seeds. And we haven't been overtly discussing the seeds that we've been planting, but don't you think we've been planting some seeds? Just, I've been sliding them in your garden. Slide in the garden, slide in the garden, slide in the garden. See if they would take root, see how you're doing with that. You know, and every seed that we plant, then it takes, grows, and in the year 8 years from now, you'll be in full harvest. These are seeds that will change who you are, change your reality. But I want you to start thinking about becoming bigger. Think of the disciples. Was it outrageous when Jesus came and healed that young man? It was out of their reach, wasn't it? Wasn't it outrageous when Jesus lifted anyone from death to life? Wasn't it outrageous when he healed? Wasn't it completely outrageous when he stood before the Pharisees and said to them, guys, I don't agree. Seriously outrageous. Bigger than you think you can become. When we include God, we can grow to that, but we have to start with, of course, the little things. There's that scripture that he who is faithful in the little will be faithful in the greater, will be given greater. He who is not faithful in the little, get to keep your little. Or even that will be taken from you. We have to learn to be faithful and include God in everything we do. And it doesn't mean you become a robot and you say, okay, God, show me everything I need to do. You breathe with your beautiful personality, your beautiful self, and you ask for divine guidance to lift you even higher. Lift who I am into a greater space of who I can be. Make sense? The biggest dream you can dream right now without demanding it. Would you allow it to come in to you? Would you allow a mountain to be moved to let it happen? Okay. Would you allow it to come in a slightly different way than you think it needs to come? Okay. All right. Not including God in the little will never get to the outrageous. All right, so including God in the little starts with this. You ready? Mental file cabinets opened. See with the eyes of God. And with the eyes of God, there is no judgment. What someone does is what they do. If it affects you, you must act on that effect. But what they do, they do. And there is a reason for what they do. Jesus always saw the reason for what they did. He knew why they did what they did, because he could see it in their energy. Why are you doing that? Stop. Well, that doesn't help. I see you're doing that. It's affecting me this way. Let me heal my effect of it. If you need to do it, go do it over there. And I'll go do my thing over here. Always understand there is a reason for everything. We don't need to understand that their journey, because if we ask, what is wrong with you, where do we get to go? To their experience. So allow. And that's the next point. Allow choice. If we are going to choose, and we're going to choose to become outrageous and fabulous and wonderful, if we don't allow the choices of the little things, again, if they affect you, you need to heal that, but the little things of another, we need to allow that freedom and that choice to them. You never can know true freedom if you don't allow freedom to the people around you. Okay? Allowing the guide almost cut me off. Most of the time I pray for them. That day I didn't. But most of the time I do. I know they've got a mom somewhere. God bless that child. He's got a mom somewhere. So, love. Seeing with the eyes of God. There's always a reason for everything. We allow our brothers to experience whatever life they are choosing. We choose our life, and we surround ourselves with love. If we surround ourselves with love, what comes to us? Love. And then we don't have to worry about what someone else is doing or what someone else is thinking. If we are working at our computer and we're surrounding ourselves with love and we've got God with us and something happens, okay, breathe. God can be in that moment too. I don't quite know what to do with this moment. Divine energy moves into this moment. We can stop. Do you hear? Okay. And we need to create. Create anything you can with God. That starts with kindness. Create a safe space around yourself and others, because you're giving of your energy. And then create. Create the little things you know to create, but bring God into that experience. Most of the artists that are in our church that I've seen work, you know, and I'll say, hey, what's happening? What you doing? Don't know yet. Don't know yet. It's coming. And they just let God flow through them. And it's great at the end. Could you duplicate that? Probably. But I couldn't have created it without God. It flows. It flows in this beautiful thing. Okay. Anyone who has had a miracle in their lives, how many of you had a miracle? I want to see hands. Okay, that's good. Balanced, left and right. Everyone that has had a miracle occur has done these two things. They have said yes to God to move the mountain. They said, yes, I'm not afraid. I know my life will change. Move that mountain. God, I'm at my edge here. Move the mountain. There'll come a point when you won't wait till you get to your edge to ask for the mountain to move. But the first time you will. Like, I'm at my edge. Move the mountain. I say yes. And then they do the second thing. They take a tiny, tiny step toward it in their daily lives. They include God in those tiny steps. And I know, even though all I'm doing is typing something, God's moving a mountain for me. God's moving through me now, God's moving that mountain. All I'm doing is taking care of what needs to take care of today, and that mountain's moving. I know the mountain's moving, God's with me now, God's in that mountain. And this is how miracles actually are created. Because we are co-creating with God in matter. We're turning over to God, we're bringing the energy in, we've planted that outrageous seed. We've said, yes, I'm not afraid. And then we include God in every little thing that we do. Not as robots, but God's with me now. And while we are doing that, the God energy is moving the mountain. Sometimes all we have to do is look up and it's gone. Sometimes we have to push a little bit. Depends on what our job is in that moment. If we included God in our thoughts, it would be amazing. If our dreams included God, if our fantasies included God, if our words included God, it would be amazing. And I know I've shared with you, Spirit told me, July 23rd, 2013, if you will speak for 1 year positively about everyone, you will be amazed at how your life will change. And I have started that over and over and over again. And on the wall in the kitchen area is a list of our workers, volunteers for each Sunday. Above it is my last New Year date. And I started my year over in August. So actually it's October. I've done extremely well this time. Yeah, just clapping because he gets the benefit of it the most. But for 1 year, to speak positively about everyone. Not truthfully, not honestly, not how I feel about it, positively. Seeing with the eyes of God, there must be a reason. It's okay. Letting people be. It's so empowering, so empowering. So today I hope I've given you a few little cues of how to integrate daily a greater awareness of God's presence. I hope I've explained to you how you may be like me, crashing everything against your reality instead of knowing God is bigger than that. And with God in your reality now, the picture changes. And I hope that you can realize that, even though if I said every miracle that ever happened to me, they may be a different scale than what you want. Maybe you want billions of dollars and all these other experiences. But my miracles that I have achieved with God and received with God are unending. 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 And huge. I've got 30 years. 30 years of miracles. And they fit what I am doing and who I am perfectly. So I don't put my life up as an example to you because I may not be your example. Maybe your dreams are so bigger, so much more outrageous than I would ever dream in. You know? I was just a little girl that wanted to be a minister and was told she couldn't because she was a girl. This big miracle for me, you know? But you might have dreams that are huge, huge. So as you are dreaming, celebrate the dreams of everyone around you. Celebrate and participate in yours. And keep that beautiful connection with God. And let's try it for a week. Can we try it for a week? Yes. All right, so let's put our feet on the floor. And just breathe and feel God's love. Father, Mother God, I ask that your light just enfold each one of us. That a beautiful cocoon of love engulf us. And I ask that each of you breathe. And as you feel the cocoon, let it feel tight against your body. Not oppressive, but snug. And feel the layers and layers and layers of potential in it. And feel in this moment, you truly can create anything you want. God and I can create perfect wings in this cocoon. God and I can create perfect ways to sail and fly. And I want you to just feel your heart for a moment, and I'm going to ask you to feel one dream. One dream of expansion, something outrageous. You got it? No? If you can't identify, just feel the vibration. And I want you to impress upon the cocoon around you this dream energy. Just push it into the cocoon. I say yes to receiving the dream that I have embedded into this energy. I say yes to becoming bigger. Feel the love of God surrounding you. You are always safe. Take a breath. Feel that you are getting stronger and more empowered, and let your focus come back to your chair. We're going to let the cocoon expand out, back in your arc field, shining bright, and say, thank you, God.
Thank you, God.